Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Wolfinger with NASA's Office of Communications. Welcome to the What's on Board briefing for CRS-20. SpaceX is preparing to launch the Dragon spacecraft on a Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station tomorrow. Targeted launch time is 11:50 p.m. This is SpaceX's 20th contract resupply mission with NASA. It will deliver more than 4,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station. Today we're going to hear about several experiments unique to CRS-20. They range in everything from improving showerhead technology to generating heart cells. As we hear from each speaker, we will open the floor for questions. Members of the media are invited to use our phone bridge to ask questions, or you can submit a question on Twitter using hashtag AskNASA. To get us started, Jennifer Buckley, International Space Station Deputy Chief Scientist, is here with an overview of what's on board.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our CRS-20 launch, What's on Board. This flight is going to be bringing up 29 science investigations. The Dragon spacecraft is going to be bringing up 1,400 kilograms of science, including external payloads. So you'll hear a little bit later about Bartolomeo, which is going to be flying as one of our externals. It will be returning 1,200 kilograms of samples, including science samples for human research, biology, as well as physical sciences. This is the final SpaceX flight under our Commercial Resupply Services 1 contract. So I'd like to take a minute to talk about the accomplishments of SpaceX under those flights. It was the first U.S. commercial provider to berth to ISS. Of those 20 missions, it has brought up 42,000 kilograms of resupply and returned 34,000. 9 of the 20 flights are using reflown capsules, with 3 of the 20 having a third flight for those capsules, including the one that you'll see tomorrow. It's the first U.S. government use of a reflown first-stage booster as well. We have enjoyed this partnership that we've had with SpaceX on flying science to the International Space Station, and we look forward to continuing that under our CRS-2 contract, which will start with the flight of 21 coming up this fall. So I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about research on ISS in general. We have flown to date about 3,000 investigations on ISS and served over 4,000 scientists. We have flown research from 108 countries globally. And with that, let's talk a little bit about why we do research on ISS. You're going to hear some more specifics about this flight later, but the type of science that we do on ISS, or why you might want to do science in microgravity, serves a variety of fields. So we have fluid physics research on ISS. Fluids behave very differently in microgravity. Surface tension becomes a dominant force. Fluids diffuse differently in space, and so this allows us to do a lot of fundamental research in those areas. Flames work differently in space. We don't have any buoyancy-driven convection, so hot air doesn't rise in space. That changes the shape of flames as well as how flames propagate. So this is a really interesting area of research, not only for Earth benefit, but as well as spacecraft design for our future exploration missions. Sedimentation works differently in space, so you'll hear a little bit later on this flight about some colloid research that's going on, as well as biological processes work different in space. One area that you'll hear about for this flight and has been a really hot area of research over the past year and a half is tissue engineering. So in space, in the absence of gravity, cells form 3D structures more readily. That's an area where we can explore how those structures are formed and potentially improve how we're doing things like organoids and bioprinting here on the ground. We have extreme conditions in space, so we have lots of thermal cycling. We do a lot of external experiments, material science, exposing it to atomic oxygen as well as vacuum. And the space station offers us a unique vantage point. So we have external instruments on ISS. ISS is 240 miles orbiting above the Earth. Its orbital path covers 90% of Earth's inhabited areas. So for our external instruments, we have everything from taking a look at water and dehydration for crops, as well as NASA being involved in disaster response networks. So when there is an event that happens here on Earth, NASA will always use its assets, or our assets, to help in any way that we can. So for more information about the research that we're doing on ISS, follow us on Twitter at ISS_research, or you can look at our new NASA Explorers series. So this follows a team of scientists and gives you behind-the-scenes look at the people who make the science possible. So this is a multi-part series that has just recently been released. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mike Roberts, who is the Interim Chief Scientist from the ISS National Lab.
Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome to Kennedy Space Center. Is everyone excited about an on-time launch late tomorrow night? Okay. As Jennifer introduced to you, there is a lot of science that is poised in the nose of the rocket, ready to go up. As Jennifer mentioned, I am the Chief Scientist with the International Space Station National Laboratory. The focus of our research portfolio complements that of NASA, but is slightly different. We focus on sponsoring research and technology development in space that has direct Earth benefit. So a lot of the breadth of different payloads and science investigations that are going up that Jennifer introduced are sponsored by the ISS National Lab, and you'll hear more from the investigators who are leading those investigations at the end of a little bit later in this presentation. I have a brief introductory video which is led to you by Patrick O'Neill. He'll introduce some of the science on this, and then I'll finish up with a few comments. We could roll the video, please.
SpaceX's first commercial resupply services mission of 2020 is absolutely loaded with research to benefit life on Earth. This marks SpaceX's 20th resupply mission to the space station. So what's on this mission? Let's take a sneak peek. Adidas, the shoe and apparel giant, will be sending its proprietary Boost shoe technology to station for evaluation. With this experiment, Adidas will observe the flow of different sized foam particles in microgravity to improve product design for athletes around the world. Delta Faucet will investigate water droplet formation on the space station to enhance the company's H2O kinetic showerhead technology. This technology takes an innovative approach to water conservation by controlling the size and speed of water droplets so the water pressure feels the same even though the showerhead is dispensing less water. This study will explore ways to better control water droplets to further enhance the H2O kinetic technology. In addition, both the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health are funding multiple investigations on this mission. The National Science Foundation is supporting an investigation examining colloids and suspensions in microgravity to advance 3D printing technology in space-based environments. While NCATS, a branch of the National Institutes of Health, continues to build on the Tissue Chips in Space program by funding 2 investigations seeking new ways to study human disease and test potential drugs. Lastly, several projects flying on this mission are from startups that have received funding through the Mass Challenge Technology in Space Prize awarded by Boeing and the ISS National Lab. These projects are looking at drug development, technology for medical diagnostics, and new drug delivery methods to improve patient care on Earth. There's a lot going on with this mission, and this is just a quick snapshot of some of the investigations launching on SpaceX CRS-20. To get an idea about all ISS National Lab sponsored payloads on this mission, I encourage you to visit our webpage at issnationallab.org.
So in addition to the incredible breadth of science and technology development, you heard that there are a very wide array of investigators from private industry, investigators from academic institutions, investigators from small entrepreneurial startups that are all seeking access to space in order to benefit their research portfolio. So National Institutes of Health is flying, on this particular mission, 2 additional tissue and chips experiments that are part of a much larger series of experiments looking at issues that are directly relevant to human health here on Earth. The National Science Foundation focuses its portfolio on fundamental research and technology development. And you heard about a couple of companies who were flying demonstrations of technologies that are very important to their bottom line, but which also translate into real benefits here on Earth because of their ability to conserve precious resources. So while we're here, I was going to just ask you a small question, a quiz. So Jennifer gave a whole lot of numbers out. So in this year of 2020, on the CRS-20 mission, how many science payloads are going up on this rocket? Very good. All right. I thought I'd fool you and somebody would say 20, but you got it. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. My name is Christopher Summer from Oklahoma. I just want to ask you guys, as you look back at the accomplishments that this mission has had, obviously entering your 20th launch, what is the attitude or the emotional state of the team as they look back on the accomplishments that you guys have experienced during this time?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that. So, as we lead up to this 20th launch, I can say that we have our, flight readiness reviews, all of our meetings where we're prepping, making sure we're ready to go. There's a lot of pride and excitement. This was an incredible challenge that people undertook. I gave some stats a little bit earlier, but this was the first program of a lot of new things and different flights in really ramping up the commercial space industry in this country. And so, I think it's been a good time for us to reflect back on what we've been able to do and what we've been able to accomplish. And then also looking forward, under the CRS-2 contract, with both SpaceX and our other providers, we've learned a lot, but we've also increased our capability. So from the science side, I'm excited. We're going to be getting our samples back faster. We're going to have more capacity. And so I just really look forward to what we're going to be able to do for our future flights.
And I'll pick up on that a little bit. I mean, the excitement never goes away. There are new capabilities coming online all the time on station. The investigators you're going to hear about when we exit stage right here are going to talk to you about a lot of hard work they've put into the ground in order to get their research up onto science, but up onto station and in the space environment. And there's a lot of work to come once they get the samples back. But we're just starting to scratch the surface. I mean, access to space is becoming more affordable. It's now affordable for middle and high schools to fund their own payloads and experiments to go up. That trend's only going to increase, so we're going to see more and more innovation, more and more new wow discoveries coming from the space environment that will help NASA further its exploration as we go deeper into space, but will also translate directly into things that benefit us here on Earth. So it's an exciting time.
Hi, my name is Rachel Itzen from NASA Social. And a lot of us here today because we love space and we love supporting what you do. So I guess my question is, when we're not here at these events, what is the best way to support and spread information for ISS research and all the projects that you do?
So I mentioned earlier we have our Twitter account, ISS_research. We post there very regularly. You can follow us, follow along with what we're doing. Some of those series, like NASA Explorers that I mentioned, usually we'll post there and put a link to it. A big part of it too is just taking the opportunity to tell people in the community about what we're doing. So one thing I love is spot the station. That's a really easy way to figure out wherever you are, that station's flying over, and there's always somebody who wonders what you're looking at, so it gives you a chance to start that conversation. We also have our Space Station Research Explorers app, and so that's great. You can download it on your phone. You don't need connectivity, and you can look at the different science that we're doing on ISS, and you can sort by topic. You can sort by the increment pair, so it always has kind of what's currently going on board. And so I find that as a good way to connect to people based on their interest.
Hi, Jeff Cunningham with tapeatthesky.net. What are the prime differences between CRS-2 and CRS-1, and how does it affect what we can expect to see in the future?
Some of the capabilities we're looking forward to, again, focusing on the science side here, is that we'll have more locker capability. So we'll have more powered assets on CRS-2. That will help us both in ascent and return. Cold stowage, getting stuff back is always a challenge. And so that will be improved, as well as our return times. So we will have similar return times to what we'll have for the commercial crew program. And so that will allow us to get our science back sooner and allows us to study different types of science, especially on the biology side, where you can look at readaptation studies. If you're getting your samples back in a matter of hours, you can watch organisms as they readapt to gravity.
And I would add the CRS-2 contracts includes a new vehicle. So we're going to return to a vehicle that has wings, that has significant benefits for life sciences research. We're going to be able to return live specimens from the International Space Station from space without experiencing the harsh Gs that are prevalent on the other vehicle that currently returns. So again, there's new capabilities, new approaches that are going to be available with the CRS-2 contract that we haven't had before. Up mass and down mass is going to be a major plus for all of that.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, Mike. Today we're really focused on the SpaceX launch, so we're talking a lot about the SpaceX transition from CRS-1 to 2. But that CRS-2 contract also encompasses companies like Sierra Nevada as well as Northrop Grumman.
Hi, Xander with the NASA Social. Now it seems like with the capabilities increasing and so many more players in the game, science to the ISS is going to increase payloads, but it seems like the bottleneck is in crew time, is in allocating crew time. Is there anything going to be done, maybe increasing the amount of crew on station or things to be done to eliminate that bottleneck with going forward?
Yes. So the commercial crew program, we are very much looking forward to launching crew members from U.S. soil once again. That will increase the number of crew members that we have on board ISS. So just, to give you an idea, we can go up into the, like around 68 hours per week of science when we have 4 crew members on board. And so that 4th crew member gives us almost full-time science. And so that will be, coming online later this year, and we're all looking forward to getting more folks up there and getting more science done.
Hi there. My name is Josh Cooper. I'm representing Michigan State University. One thing that really excites me about this contract is kind of what can happen when public and private sectors come together. When you look ahead to the next missions and the next contracts, what advice do you have to young people who might be studying today to get involved with those future missions? Do you recommend focusing their attention on the public sector or the private?
Follow your passion. We need teachers, we need business professionals, we need engineers, we need innovators, we need dreamers. And there's a place for them at NASA. There's a place for them at any of the startup companies that are involved in developing payloads, integrating science into hardware that can go up to the International Space Station. You've seen tremendous growth over the last few years in launch service providers. So not only orbital vehicles, but suborbital. It's all growing right now. Tourism industry is also going to be growing and accessing space soon. So follow your passion. What interests you. If you can incorporate space into that, do it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks, Mike and Jennifer. In addition to transporting research, Dragon will deliver Airbus's Bartolomeo. This is a new commercial research platform that will be installed on station. Joining us now to tell us more about this is Bill Corley and Andreas Schutte. Bill is the Director of Business Development for Airbus Defense and Space, and Andreas is Bartolomeo's Project Manager.
Bartolomeo is a commercial venture by Airbus that will enhance the capabilities to perform external research on the space station, giving greater quantities of payload slots to be used, whether it be for earth sciences, mapping of the Earth, space weather, several different other applications. It's something that is going to be attached to the Columbus module and supply power, data, and downlink of telemetry through the laser comm. I guess you can start the video. slide, I'll turn it over to the program manager, Andreas, to talk more in detail about the technical sides.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill. Yeah, I'd like to explain a little bit what Bartolomeo is from a technical point of view and what it actually features. It started out a couple of years ago when the European Space Agency asked for ideas how to promote science and increase commercial activities on board the ISS. And our answer is the Bartolomeo platform. With Bartolomeo, we can offer 12 payload slots available for any organization, be it a research organization, university, or a commercial entity. We sell to anyone to enable science, in-orbit demonstrations, you name it. Your dreams will come true on board Bartolomeo. Bartolomeo increases the capabilities of science and on-orbit demonstrations. With Bartolomeo, we offer an additional infrastructure to the available ISS infrastructure and the Columbus module. The Bartolomeo platform is roughly 6.5 feet wide and 5.5 feet deep, and around the you can show the first slide, please. And around this platform, you see those golden blue attachment points. That's where the payloads will be accommodated on the Bartolomeo platform. Up to 12 we can accommodate. And but before we get that far, we first of all need to install the Bartolomeo on board the ISS. We have installed it in the SpaceX trunk, so that has been done a few weeks ago. And with this finished, we are eagerly waiting for the launch, but this is only one milestone on the way of Bartolomeo. The most interesting part is eventually the robotic installation of Bartolomeo. Bartolomeo is full of very complex mechanisms. Our NASA colleagues from the robotics team have told us this is the most complex experiment platform they've ever seen. So what we're doing with Bartolomeo is we're attaching to the Columbus trunnions. Those are the little or large bolts, I should say, on the Columbus module. One is attaching on one side. The other is on an extendable boom, the so-called outrigger. So this unfolds mechanically with robotic command from the space station manipulator system, and unfolds and clamps to the other trunnion so that it's attaching then firmly to the Columbus module and can never be released again unless it's done by an EVA. But that's a different story. We don't want to release it. We want first to get it done and attach it to the Columbus. Once that is finished, next slide, please. We are going to have the harness, which you see, those are the white cables on the upper side of the platform, the zenith side of the platform, attached to the Columbus module, routed via the Columbus module and connected to the Pappas connectors. They provide power and data connection from the Columbus module to the Bartolomeo, and within the Bartolomeo, the power and data is then distributed and communicated to the individual payloads. Next slide, please. The handling of the data and power is done via these white avionic boxes. One is responsible for getting the power from the Columbus and distributing it to the individual payloads. They can be controlled individually so that each payload has its own power supply. Same applies for the data handling system, which is the second avionic box. With the avionic system, we acquire the housekeeping and payload data from the payload slots and send them via the Columbus telemetry system, the ISS telemetry, to the ground to an Airbus cloud, and from the Airbus cloud, the payload owner can acquire those data and display them on his or her smartphone. And also the payload can be controlled via this platform, via this cloud from the smartphone. In addition to the downlink of the data from the ISS telemetry, we will offer also a laser communication terminal which will downlink data at a rate of up to 2 terabytes per day. So this is something where we're going to offer something very unique, and this could be very interesting for Earth observation where camera data are downlinked and we have really high data rates. So this is really unique. And if we show the next slide, you see a lot of harness, I should say. Ah, there it is. It's on the other screen. And with this harness, you see that's distributing the power and data to the individual payloads. It's not visible anymore in the final integrated Bartholomew platform because the second half of the platform is placed on top, firmly integrated. And then, yeah, now it is ready for launch, and we're eagerly waiting for the successful launch tomorrow and looking forward to many happy customers. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, right here.
Okay. Do you have to hold it? Oh, okay. Hi, this is Athena from the Astro Athens channel. While looking at the intro video, seeing how the compartments were coming together on the ISS, it kind of looked like a game of Tetris. And personally, that's super relatable to myself, and I can only imagine younger generations and kids out there. So I want to ask, what are your favorite parts of what Bartolomeo is doing for furthering humanity into space?
Well, I think it's granting greater opportunities to enhance more real estate to do external research.
Yeah, and also offering the possibility for commercial users. We offer the capability for anyone who wants to fly in space, which is right now very difficult to achieve because people who want to research or do demonstrations on the ISS need to go typically through a thorough review process, and we offer it commercially, so it's on a first-come, first-served basis.
Over here.
Hey, do I have to hold it? I'm Chelsea Troy. I'm wondering, how would the process of getting an experiment onto Bartolomeo differ from the current process for getting an experiment onto the International Space Station?
National labs, manifesting process, and go through this gentleman right here.
Here.
Hey guys, my name is Will. I'm with DeepSkyDude.com, and I'm an amateur astronomer. So my first thought for external payloads is telescopes. Is anybody doing that, going that direction?
We do have some interest and some customers that are doing exactly that, heliophysics type stuff.
Heliophysics, okay,
Right.
So solar research and things
Right.
like that. Very cool. Interesting.
Yeah, it has some of the best viewing capabilities on the station. So you're out front, leading edge, RAM. So it's in the sweet spot.
Definitely.
One more back here. You have a question?
Hi, Megan Trabert from Los Angeles, California. So from an engineering standpoint, you said that this could accommodate about 12 payloads. What was the rationale behind that? Why not maybe try to incorporate a couple more? Or how did you arrive at that number?
Yeah, basically it's the space that is available. We needed to fit with the platform into the SpaceX trunk. And that's also the reason why we had to be a little bit smaller than we originally anticipated. And we also had to fold the outrigger boom to attach between the trunnions. So that required some really complex mechanisms and requires also a lot of robotics activities when Bartolomeo is going to be installed. So it was basically a trade-off of maximizing the space for payloads and fitting into the confined space during the launch.
I'm Christopher Summer with NASA Social. Are there any plans to add additional platforms to the station?
Well, right now we want to launch Bartolomeo first, and when Bartolomeo is successful, we may think about it.
A few more right here.
Hi, Mike Davis with St. Pete College. Is the installation of Bartolomeo completely robotic? Will you need anything from the crew on board ISS?
Yeah, the robotic arm will take the Bartolomeo platform out of the trunk and install it on the Columbus module. Then the antenna booms will unfold so that Bartolomeo is basically mechanically installed and fixed to the Columbus module. At a later point in time, the crew will make an EVA to install the harness. So that's the only time when we really need an EVA. The installation itself will be done robotically.
As will all the payloads that go up.
Right here.
Hi, I'm Gianna Castano from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I'm wondering how often you plan to circulate these payload projects, like how, depending on a university's project, how long are they allowed to be up there? Are they allowed to be there as long as they want? And how many times do you think that you'll be able to retrieve the data back and forth from ISS back to Earth?
Well, the data can be brought down all the time. The payloads themselves, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, there are some that we're talking to that want to be there to the life of station. Some are 6 months to a year. Okay. But year is kind of the going in limit. Thought, yeah.
Thank you.
Mike, one more.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm also here with NASA Social. Just one question, why you decided to go with a dedicated laser-based communication system. Is that just because the current existing infrastructure doesn't have the bandwidth that you need, or is that just to avoid competing for time over the space network currently in use?
It's a little bit of both, actually. Yep.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presenters are here to tell us about the generation of cardiomyocytes from induced pluripotent stem cells. I have absolutely no idea what I just said, so I'm going to have them come over and explain it to us. Please welcome Xin-Li Xu, Principal Investigator and Associate Professor at Emory University School of Medicine, and Jean Bolin, Chief Scientist of TechShot.
Thank you for the introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give an overview of the project, and Dr. Jean Bolin will tell you more about the MVP hardware. So we're very excited for the opportunity to send ourselves to the International Space Station. So our project is wanting to study how stem cells derive cardiomyocytes, how they grow, their growth and developments. So can you show us the next slide, please? I think they're yeah. So we wanted to study if heart-specific stem cell called cardiac progenitors can grow faster in space, and if more of them can turn into beating heart muscle cells known as cardiomyocytes. So can you show the video, please? The beating cardiomyocytes. So this is the cardiomyocytes that we generated from stem cells in our lab. The stem cell cardiomyocytes have great potential to treat heart disease for both kids and adults. Many of us may not realize stem cell therapies for repairing a heart, damaged heart, actually requires a large number of cardiomyocytes, at least 1 billion for each patient. So we need to develop more efficient ways to produce these cells than currently possible. Would you please show the next slide, please? So at Emory, when we combine our 3D tissue engineering with simulated microgravity, we saw promising steps towards reaching that goal. We can generate cardiomyocytes with 5 times the yield of conventional method. So next slide, please. So by sending the cell to space, we would like to confirm our ground-based observation. We also hope to discover additional information. We will analyze molecular and cellular changes of the cells cultured in space. This analysis will provide us mechanistic insights on how the cells will grow and how they can turn into heart muscle cells. And with this insight, we hope to develop a more efficient way and cost-effectively to produce stem cell cardiomyocytes. An efficient way to produce a stem cell cardiomyocyte will help to make stem cell-based therapy more widely available to kids and adults with heart disease. So if stem cell therapy proves successful, the demand for stem cell will be tremendous because heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the US. In addition to cell therapy, stem cell cardiomyocytes are also in high demand for other applications. For example, the cells can be used to identify and test new therapies because they can serve as a physiologically relevant cell type for drug testing. And this type of technology can speed up the development of safe drugs and reduce the costs. So here's the bottom line. Application of stem cell in cardiac regeneration and drug discovery require efficient generation of high-quality cardiomyocytes. And this is why we're sending cells to space to study the growth of cardiac progenitors and the formation of heart muscle cells. Next slide, please. We have generated and cryopreserved 3D cardiac progenitors. So once the cells arrived at the ISS, the astronaut will saw and grow the cells in the MVP hardware for about 21 days. During the experiment, the astronauts will change medium bags, collect and pack the samples, then ship them back first for further analysis. So you see, the study requires tremendous effort from the astronaut. So we really appreciate their contribution. We also wanted to thank Textron engineers who designed the MVP hardware and will maintain constant communication with the astronaut during flight operation. Yeah, so I'll turn that to Jean to tell you more about the MVP hardware.
Thanks, Chun-Wei. So TechShot has been in this business for about 30 years, enabling brilliant researchers to conduct their research in space, first aboard shuttle and now aboard ISS. And so the platform we're using today, we call our MVP. It's our multi-use variable G platform, which has a lot of interesting capabilities. First and foremost, because this is what an experiment module looks like. I can show you a little bit more detail in a second. This is a self-contained laboratory. We had a great question earlier about crew time. Crew time is a precious, precious commodity. And so as a company, we focus on developing highly automated hardware that allows great science to happen with minimal crew effort. So inside this box, we have your whole lab. We have your supply media. We have your already used media. We have pumps. We can do incubation. We have a microscope, and finally, we have a chamber that we can grow the cells in. So all is integrated, in a hand-sized package, is what would take a whole benchtop in your lab, and now we can add 12 of these, and so we can start to get multiple samples and multiple iterations of an experiment to really show and really prove out what is going on. We're trying a couple of new things on this flight for Dr. Xu, is that we're bringing these back alive. So, Jennifer mentioned earlier how the CRS-1 vehicle, not a really prompt return, that we're looking forward to CRS-2 to get a little bit faster return. Now we have to get these from station to California and back into Dr. Xu's lab, but keeping them all alive, because while we'll preserve some of the cells on station, is really those live cells in return to really understand what's going on and to re-understand what's going on when they reacclimate to 1G to say, do we multiply the cells, but do we multiply them the right way? So, there's been a great opportunity for us from working with Dr. Xu for the last 2 years. And really with that, we'd like to open it up to any questions you might have about cardiomyocytes or about, more stuff in space.
Hey, I'm Chelsea Troy. I'm wondering, so we've seen a couple of different experiments that use TechShot kind of self-contained laboratories. To what degree are those components reusable for different types of science experiments, or do you have to custom design that lab for each individual experiment?
That's a great question. So for us, this is a program. So, well, one, we want to make sure that it's customized to get the best science, but also, we're a business, so we'd like to reuse it. So the good part is these are all then proven technologies that we can reuse different aspects of it to get back to space faster, to get through the safety reviews quicker, but also, we're not flying, a one-off every time. So we can come to a, investigator with some confidence saying, we've done that before, we've tried that before, we have a solution that'll probably work.
Any other questions? Here.
Hi, I'm Gianna Castano. What constitutes a high-quality cardiomyocyte?
Very good question. So for cell therapies, there's high demands for the cells. Quality is also very important. So not only we have to generate large amount of cardiomyocyte, we also need to generate the cells in high quality. So purity is one issue. So we don't want to have a residual stem cells there, so that can induce tumor. So that's one issue. The other thing is the maturation. So if the cells is immature, they might have some other features that could cause problems. So in our ground-based experiments, we found out that not only we can produce a large amount of cells, we also found the cells have all the expected property of heart cells. And they also have two unique features that are more suitable for cell therapies. One is they have expressed survival genes that might be able to help out the cells to survive. And the other thing is they are relatively more mature. So they can be, hopefully they can connect it with the heart tissue better, so cause less problems. The purity is amazing, so we don't see any residual stem cells in our preparation. So yeah, thank you.
Did you have a question? Okay.
Hi, Mike Uchida. Just curious, so kind of the end state for this experiment and test, if this does prove successful, is the end state to have an enduring capability to develop these in microgravity or in low Earth orbit, or is it to continue using a simulated microgravity to grow these?
Yeah, so very good question. So our goal is trying to understand the mechanistic insights on how the cells, how stem cells turn into progenitors and then eventually become cardiomyocytes. So the hope is trying to understand the basic biologies. So this will help us to develop a more efficient way to generate cardiomyocytes from stem cells on Earth. So may or not necessarily to count on microgravity all the time. So, but it will definitely help us to understand the basic biology. Yeah.
And if I could just jump in and add one other thing. So, what Chun-Wei showed before is the random positioning machine. That's one way of reproducing microgravity or simulating microgravity on the ground. There are other methodologies. So, part of what we're hoping to do is get some high-quality cells back for her and then really kind of understand what's going on with these cells in true microgravity that may be able to be reproduced later. Because while everyone would want a heart cell from space, it's probably a little bit cheaper and a little bit quicker not to have it made in space. But to really understand, the survival genes, to understand the purity and understand what microgravity is really doing to the cells, to try to simulate it on the ground. Going right back to what Mike was saying earlier, that it's the Earth benefit that's really the key.
Any other questions? Right here.
Hi, I'm Andy Phillips. Just a quick question about the survivability of the cells. Is it more difficult to get the cells into orbit and have them survive, or get them back from orbit and still be viable?
Yeah, very, very good question. So I think definitely we want to make sure that the cells going to be survive. We want live cells so we can do functional studies. Right now, when we send to space, we have prepared cryopreserved cells because there's several advantages for that. One is we don't have to worry about the launch delay. It will give lots of flexibility for the astronaut, so they can solve their cells in the flexible schedule. So we have our team at Emory have worked very hard to figure out a way to cryopreserve the 3D cartospheres because cryopreserved single cells is simple, but freezing 3D tissue engineering is not simple. So we have to develop ways to allow the cells to recover. And TechShaw has been working extensively how to get the cells survive in the MVP hardware. So we are confident on that sections. Looking into cells coming back, I think we have done lots of ground-based experiment as well to see how, even imagine like a worst-case scenario, how the cells can handle, group in my, people in my lab also trying even room temperature, how we're stand the shipping environments. So the cells seem to be very tough. They actually survive quite well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. As well as simple things, even orientation on the way down matters. It's a multi-G return. So we're looking at how can we design a chamber to really minimize that impact. So how do we spread that force across so the cells don't see all of the force? So effort goes into every stage of this. So whether it's flying the frozen syringe or whether it's coming up with the best orientation to give the best survival chance on the way down. So it's all part of it, but for this one, it's the return that's hard because flying a frozen syringe isn't too challenging. It's getting happy heart cells back in a month.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Water conservation has never been more important than it is today, and understanding gravity's effects on water droplet formation can have a positive impact on that, which leads us to our next research highlight, the Droplet Formation Study. Gary Marty, Principal Product Engineer, and Paul Patton, Retired Senior Manager, Front-End Innovation and Regulatory, both with Delta Faucet Company, are here to tell us more about this study.
Delta Faucet Company is really excited. We're a commercial company to be conducting this experiment on the International Space Station. And the droplet formation study is, we developed a technology a few years ago called H2O kinetic technology. You've heard at the beginning with the video about water conservation. We constantly fight federal, state, local jurisdictions. Let's be honest, water is a precious commodity for all of us. And we're continuing being governed by all of those organizations to lower the flow and lower the flow and lower the flow. With our H2O kinetic technology, we were able to change how a shower device delivered a shower for an end user. Because our number one and most important thing to our company is our consumer and what their expectations are when they take that shower. I mean, we've all taken showers that are lower flow, and no, they're not really great to be under, right? and so if we get a better understanding of this new technology that we're doing, what can we do in a gravity situation? Can we improve it? Are we at the limit of that? Can we do some other things to it? And so the more we understand on that, the more that we can have a better way to try to improve that or what else. The other point I want to make about that also comes off this, someday we will be living somewhere in space. We're going to be somewhere, right? How are you going to take showers? We all want to take a shower, right? So it's going to enhance the whole thing when we think about just the industry of space in general and when we're moving forward with that. So as we get a better understanding of that, how that on a microgravity works, we're hopeful that we can come up with just a tweak or do this differently, or a droplet might be circular. Now we make it, oblong or whatever else that will help us continue to deal with the lower flow rate and also with conserving water. And Gary, you want to give a little more about the technical part of it?
Sure. This is a technology that virtually everybody here is familiar with. When you squirt your windshield, you get that line of fluid on your windshield. That is a fluidic chip. It's the same basic technology that we're using. The Swiffer wet jets, that squirt on the floor, same technology. The company we work with is a company called DLH Bowles. They're masters at this. And they've got it to where we can control the droplet size and the speed. So when you ask people what they want in a shower, virtually everybody will say they want more pressure. From a technical perspective, the pressure is zero. Once it leaves the pipe, there is no pressure. What they're actually feeling is the momentum of the drops hitting their bodies, right? So the momentum is the mass times the velocity. So if you can make them bigger and make them faster, when they hit you, you're going to feel it more. So our testing we've done and improved that we can get about, feels like 3 times more water, right? Yeah, 3 times more water. And then also what you're getting is, because it actually covers an area as opposed to just like a needle jet, which is just one little line of water hitting you, we get about a 90–95% coverage of water actually hitting you versus a typical shower head where you might have 44–66 nozzle jets hitting you is about 25%. So you get bigger area and the droplets are bigger. So it's been a huge impact for us. You get a better shower using less water. So if you have, we can get a really good shower at say 1.75. At 1.75 in a typical shower head, it takes you longer to take a shower. The other thing that people don't really take in effect is when you drop the flow rate so much, they think they're saving water, but it takes so long to get shampoo out of your hair that people are taking longer showers. So the net effect is actually you're using more water. Yeah.
Comment, and then we'll take questions. When consumers, you don't know like we do, right, about shower heads. But so when you go to buy one in replacement, the only thing you have is you look at the size and you count how many holes. Honestly, I've been on so many shop-alongs with people. That's it. The bigger, the more holes, the more water I'm getting, and that's not true because everybody is regulated by the government. Our industry is highly regulated. So that's why this H2O kinetic and getting that better understanding of what our capabilities may be to do this is so important to us. So questions?
Well, and just to build on that a little bit, if you do have a lowered flow rate, the only way you can get a decent shower is either put fewer holes or smaller diameter, and then high pressure is that little's going to be really stingy. It's not going to be very comfortable. So that's another reason to build on what Paul was saying, that the fluidics actually works much better.
So questions, anyone?
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
The final investigation we'll hear about today is one that studies the effects of microgravity on chemical reactions. Our next presenter, Aaron Beeler, principal investigator and professor of chemistry at Boston University, is here to tell us more about his investigation. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you. I'm super excited to tell you about the experiments and the system we're going to be putting up, hopefully with this successful launch tomorrow. I'm a professor at Boston University. I'm a professor of chemistry. My lab, we make molecules. And we usually make molecules that are of interest to human health, and we think they're important. And one of the, I think, very powerful tools that we've been using over the past few years is flow chemistry. And so flow chemistry is fairly simple. It takes the concept of a chemical reaction out of flasks, which I think is probably what everybody thinks of when they think of doing chemical reactions, and puts it into a tube. And it flows from a reagent container into a collection flask through a tube. And that has a few benefits. That's allowed some really, I think, revolutionary types of technologies to be developed to make things better. So, for instance, a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant, in principle, has gone from being 100,000 square feet to the size of a refrigerator, and that has a lot of possibilities. One of them is on-demand synthesis in something that's the size of a refrigerator on the space station, for instance, on a satellite manufacturing a novel material, as an example, and interestingly, when we started thinking about this possibility and asking the question of how do we take the information that we have here and the technology we have here and put it into space, it turns out that there's not a whole lot known, or there's not been a lot of exploration of how chemical reactions behave in microgravity. And so if I wanted to take the system that I've built in my lab and put it on the space station, the likelihood of it behaving the same is very low. Another question is, are there phenomena that happen in fluidics and chemical reactions? As was mentioned earlier, fluids behave differently. So are there phenomena that we can take advantage of, that we can leverage to, for instance, make a novel material that we could make in space that we could not make on Earth? And so really what we set out to do was to work with the National Lab to develop a platform that would allow scientists, allow us, but other chemists to carry out chemical reactions safely and efficiently on the space station. So if you'll see in our first slide as a picture of what we developed with Space Tango, and the engineers at Space Tango were able to essentially take the technologies that we've developed in the lab and put them into a very small box. This is a student from my lab that worked on this with Space Tango. Holding this, so you can see it's fairly small. And this system, if you can see in the next slide, is fairly complex inside. It has a number of bags, a lot of tubing, a lot of pumps and manifolds. But this allows us to do, in this case, up to 18 different reactions. We can control the speed or the rate of the reaction. We can control temperature. We can control time. We control all those sort of variables, and we can do up to 18 different reactions with up to 36 combinations of reagents and start to really look at the effect of microgravity on various types of reactions. And so in the next slide, you see sort of a top-down view. Again, this is a very complex system. But in the next slide, I have what is sort of a cartoon of the general principle, in that we have in this case, two reagents, reservoirs, and they're pumping through a reactor. And this reactor is one that we've developed in the lab. It's fairly simple, but it allows us to do a lot of different types of reactions. And it also allows us to visualize the reaction with the camera. And what you'll see on this cartoon is that we have an analyzer now. Right now, we don't have that capability on the space station, but in principle, you would want to analyze the reaction as it comes out. But what we do is we're able to look at the reaction with cameras in this as it's happening. So we've developed or sort of designed the reactions so we can monitor them colorimetrically as they're taking place. And so on the next slide, what was shown here is our mission patch. And I use this for two reasons. One, because Matt in my lab made this patch, and so it shows that he's not only a good chemist, but he's also a good artist, because I think it's really cool. But you'll notice that there's sort of two loops, sort of pink loops on this. And he put those in on purpose because they actually represent two of the reactions that we're doing. And again, keep in mind that we're not able to sort of monitor these things real time, so we have to come up with ways to analyze them real time or as close to real time as possible. And so on the bottom pink loop, what you see is it's getting lighter and lighter. And so the reaction that we've designed here, it allows us to watch the reaction as it's happening, and the color should disappear as the reaction's completed. So this lets us look at really the effect of mixing in the fluidics and how that's happening in microgravity. The one that's above that it has the sort of segments of white and pink. And again, that's another reaction that we're looking at the color, and this is a biphasic reaction because in terrestrially, there's a lot of things that sort of drive segmentation. And one of those is gravity, and the lack of gravity, as was mentioned before, surface tension really starts to drive how fluids interface when they're immiscible. And so this is what we're looking at here. How does that affect this chemical reaction? And the third reaction that we're doing, which is not actually on the mission patch, is a peptide coupling. So making peptides is one of the fundamental reactions that you can do to study biological processes. And really what we're looking at here is, can we send up reagents, make a molecule, in this case a dipeptide, and then bring it back and analyze it? So can we do a synthetically reasonable reaction or synthetically applicable reaction on the space station and bring it back successfully? And so on the final slide, I just want to really again point out the fantastic team at Space Tango, the tremendous engineers that allowed us to take this technology, put it into a box. Gentry, Matt from my lab in the middle, and Zach. And we're really excited about this. This is going to be the first example of being able to do a synthetic process on the space station safely and efficiently. And with that, I would love to take questions.
Hi, Mike Davis from St. Pete College. I teach chemistry, and so I want to bring some of this back to my students. So you get to do a lot of colorimetric stuff via camera. Are you going to be able to look at anything like an antinomeric excess or any kind of stereochemistry?
No, it's a great question. Right now, no. As we move forward and as this system is used, I mean, the hope is that this platform will be something that we use, but many chemists, scientists that are interested in these questions will use. And we're really hopeful, and we're working with NASA and others in trying to put those analytical tools onto the station that can be coupled with the platform so that you can really now expand and ask, I think, a lot more maybe a finer resolution question if you can analyze real time. It's a great question, but right now, no, is the answer.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That's all the time we have today, unfortunately. You all had great questions, and we learned so much. But if you want to know more, please visit nasa.gov/ISS-science or follow @ISS_research on Twitter. For updates on the launch, check out nasa.gov/SpaceX. And of course, make sure to tune in tomorrow for the launch broadcast beginning at 11:30 p.m. I'd like to thank our viewers at home and all of you here. And also, I want to encourage you to enjoy the rest of the day and your visit here at Kennedy Space Center. But to end, I'd like to thank our wonderful guests one more time.